Hey, what's up guys? I'm Mr. Chris with Infotainment.com. Today we are with our 2022 Jeep Gladiator that we're going to be doing passive entry on. This upgrade is exactly like the Wrangler upgrade minus the swing gate in the back. We're missing the swing gate because we've got a tailgate back there. So we're just going to focus on the driver and passenger door for this install. I also have Danny here with us. He is our newest installer. He's going to be helping me do this upgrade. He's going to be on the passenger side, basically mirroring everything that I do on the driver's side. So yeah, let's get into the install. All right, so where we're going to start is actually on the driver's side. We're going to remove the driver's side door handle. And to do that, you're going to want to pop open your door. And right on the inside of the door edge here, you have this black sticker. There's two of them. You're going to want to focus on the top black sticker. And because we're going to be reusing this, you want to be nice or as gentle as you can be. And I have a pick tool. You can use anything, maybe something made out of plastic, maybe a little bit gentler on this sticker. There you go. Once you get an edge up, you can kind of lift that whole thing up and out of the way. And that's going to expose this hole, which has a T25 Torx screw inside there holding on our handle. I'm not even going to remove it all the way because once I'm done, I'm just going to flop that thing back down. But with it up, I'll go ahead and loosen that screw, and that screw is not going to come out, it's just going to loosen. And then you can pull out the end, or this is called the handle cap. You can pull that handle cap out, and at this point there's nothing else holding in our driver's side door handle. We'll slide it to the outside, swing up and out of the way. We can basically leave this the way it is until we're ready for our new handle. All right, now inside of the door panel, behind your driver door handle, there's actually a T30 Torx screw right behind this plastic plate. You're gonna need to open your handle, and right up top is a little kind of a access hole here. I got my pick tool and just pick that down, and there you'll see when you get that plate out of the way, you got a T30 right back there. Up under your door handle, you have two more T30s right up underneath the handle. And then way at the bottom, you have two T20 Torx screws that you're going to want to pull out. All right, next it's just a bunch of retaining clips that go all the way around your panel. You're going to want to grab a panel tool. You might need a pretty sturdy one because these panel pops are pretty strong. Once you get a big enough gap, you can probably just do this with your hands. Once you get them all out, you can lift up on your door panel, removing it from that weather strip or that seal up top. And on the back side of your door, you have a bunch of connectors that you're gonna have to disconnect. This main harness down here has a red lock on it that you're gonna have to pull back so you can depress that button in the center. And then with your handle and lock assembly, you actually have these cables. The top one will just slide out, and there's a notch up top here that cable will pull out from if you pull upwards. This one on the bottom is a little bit different. There's actually a couple of clips, one on the top and the bottom. So I'm going to get the panel tool and press that clip in to release it from the hole that it's in. And you're going to want to do this while pulling back on this cable. Just like that. And that'll pop out. And now you have your whole door panel free and clear from your door. All right, now looking at our door here, you can see we have our spots for our retaining clips. One of them didn't make it onto the door panel. It actually got left behind. So we're gonna pop that out with our panel tool and make sure to slide this back into the corresponding side that is missing one on your door panel before you try and put your door panel back in. If you were to install this and this wasn't in the door panel, this part would just be flappy. It wouldn't seat all the way. All right, now for the next step, our window is all the way in the down position here. If it was up or regardless of where it is, what we're gonna have to do is line up the window bolts to these access holes here. So we're gonna pop these holes open, these little rubber-like covers. You're gonna wanna roll either your window up or down until you can see the two 10mm bolts that are holding that bottom of the window frame in. So we'll turn our ignition on and roll that window up. And right there you can see we have our two bolts exposed. So we'll leave it right here, turn our ignition off, and we can go ahead and start to remove these two 10 mils. Now, these are held in with a good amount of Loctite, and if you use an impact on these, they can snap. So I recommend using hand tools for most of the way out. Once you pass that Loctite or that thread locked section, you'll feel it get easier. From that point, you can use a power tool to get it off, but I just don't recommend using it from start to finish. All right, so from here we have our two 10 mils removed. I grabbed my tape because basically from this point we're gonna wanna rip some nice lengths of tape, and I'm gonna stick it on our door frame, have it ready to secure the window, because all that's left to remove this window from the seat here is to pull those two, that blue and white. At the bottom it's like a clip. So all we gotta do is pull that towards us, and that'll free our glass from that regulator. And once we have it free, we'll slide it up, keep pressure on it while holding it up in that frame, and then wrap it with tape to secure that window. And you're gonna wanna secure that really well. Make sure it's a good strong tape. I like painter's tape. Make sure you use enough of it to secure that kind of weight. I wouldn't recommend duct tape because it leaves a nasty residue, and painter's tape also comes off pretty cleanly from tinted windows. So you wanna make sure it's nice and secure up there. You don't want it dropping, because if it were to drop in that channel, you have a chance of damaging the glass or damaging your arm, your arm if you're working in there. All right, I got some tape, pretty easy for me to access as I'm holding the window up. And I will pull up on the glass as I pull back on these clips. There we go. Got the window free. I'll push it up, throw a piece of tape on there. All right, now that our window is secure, we can proceed with removing our door skin. All right, what we're gonna do from here is we're gonna unclip this gray plug here. This is going to our side view mirror, and you have a retaining clip right here that's holding that wire on. You want that to be free because we're gonna be pulling this skin out and off, so we don't want this in the way. And there's a couple more clips down here holding our main door harness to the door frame. We can pull that off. You don't have to take it off any more than that. You don't have to undo the whole thing. You can if you want to get really technical and pull the whole thing off, but we don't need to for what we're going to be doing. Now we're just going to remove all the visible 10mm screws that are going all the way around. We're going to take all that off. There's one that's always missing. That's deliberate. Make sure you don't put one back in there. Just put it back where you got them from. And after we pull those off, we have 3 T30 Torx screws on the frame of our door holding on our door latch. Once we have all those off, we can pull this skin away from the Jeep. All right, now we're ready to pull the door skin away from the door frame. This gasket that's around this door frame is kind of stuck sometimes. Be mindful of that. And then up top on this door skin is the top part of the window regulator. So as you're pulling it out, you're gonna wanna pull down on the top so it clears that. And basically, you don't have to pull it off any more than this. You just want to get access to the backside of our door shell so we can install our new handle and the wiring that is going to be needed for the passive entry upgrade. All right, now we'll be installing our upgraded passive entry handles. The handle cap on the side, we send you one that comes with our upgrade. Don't use your factory piece, it's different. Even though it looks the same, it won't work. So make sure you install the included handle cap. And you simply just have to slide that handle in, just like how you pulled the old one out. Press it to the rear. Now that handle's ready, you can see our buttons there. We'll slide our new handle cap in, and we can tighten down that screw that we didn't pull out earlier. Now that the handle's completely installed, we can mush our little tape piece back down over that hole. All right, now we can move on to the wiring. All right, so on the inside of our door here, you can see our newly added handle with its connector. You're gonna wanna grab the door harnesses that were included with your kit. You have two sides, one is longer than the other. The longer side is for the passenger side, the shorter side is for your driver's side. And you're gonna wanna just plug that in until it clips. Give a nice little tug, that is good to go. And as far as the wiring goes, how you're gonna run this is basically this white bracket here with this black rubbery felt type material here. This is where your window sits. So when your window goes up and down, it's actually gliding in between this channel here. So you're gonna wanna completely miss this whole section. And what I'm gonna do is go around the back side of it. And this is much easier to do or to see in person if you're doing this yourself. You're gonna wanna bring it around the back side, up through, and you can see this factory harness that's coming through here. You're gonna bring it just around that area. I'm gonna zip tie it along this factory harness, and I'm gonna go through that same door boot that the factory wires are going through. So my arm's probably gonna be blocking a lot of this, but just know that that's what I'm doing. And actually underneath the handle, there's a little loop or a hook that you can tuck the wires in to keep it just a little bit tighter in there. Just like that. And then this other end of the wire, you can see, I'm just gonna kind of follow that factory harness. And I'll throw a zip tie on there. And when you get it to this boot area, underneath the boot on the bottom side, you can see it has like almost like a little hood here. I'm gonna make a small incision with a razor blade, and I'm gonna stuff the wires through there. And it'll actually make it a little easier if you disconnect that secondary section of wire from your harness here. You're not playing with so much wire. All right, once you get all the slack pulled through, you're basically just gonna wanna follow this factory harness down the door frame here. And when you get to this section here, this is where we're actually gonna enter the factory loom. We're gonna go through the factory loom, and this is gonna end up in our kick panel area. So if you ever needed to remove your doors, I know some of you Jeep guys like to remove your doors, you're gonna have a disconnecting point right near your factory door disconnection on the inside of the kick. So that's the end goal. But now that we have the wire through here, we can go ahead and reattach all of the door skin and put our window back together and everything. We're pretty much done at this point with the handle install. All right, now we're ready to drop the window back into its frame. Pull all of the tape while keeping pressure, upwards pressure on that window. Now when you're dropping the glass down, you want to do it evenly, straight up and down. I kind of push it against this edge here. And it should fall right into place and click right back in to our regulator. Now we're ready to reinstall those two 10 mils that we pulled out earlier. All right, so before I continue to run my wire into the factory door loom, what I'm gonna do is remove the factory kick panel, which is pretty easy to do. You have this plastic cover here that just pulls straight back, and on the inside part, you actually have this tether that's supposed to be attached. Ours broke off. Many of yours probably broke off too, because that's what they do. But if that's the case, you just pull this off, set that to the side, and we have our factory door connector here that we can remove. Just slide that little center lock up, and then you can press this button down here and lift up. This is a lever type of connector. So as you lift up on that lever, it'll push the connector right out on the bottom side. And from here, we'll have to close the door just a little bit and get this hook, or get our fabric harness over that hook. And now we have access to the whole thing. Now we can run our long zip tie through this, get our factory tape out here cut, and we actually have some felt tape. Once we have this cut up and our new wire in there, we'll cover it back in that factory looking tape so it'll look like we were never in there. And that's all you're trying to do, is get to the exposed wire. Once you can see that wire, we'll grab our zip tie. This is a fairly large zip tie. It used to be a 3-foot zip tie, which has been cut down to help us run wires. One side's been not sharpened, but kind of made to a point, so it doesn't really snag on anything in there. And there you can see we have the other end that popped through. This is all we need on this side. We're gonna take our connector. I'm gonna tape this to this side. I'm gonna try to keep the profile as small as possible and keep the tape nice and tapered down tight so that it doesn't get hung up inside of this fabric harness as well. And what I always like to do with my tape is I like to leave a little edge. We call it a flag. You have a little flag off of here, that way you're not like hunting for the end of the tape when you're trying to unravel your connector. But now that it's all wrapped up, we'll slide this through this fabric harness here. Also might make it easier to remove the door loop here, which is 2 T30 Torx. I'll see if I can do this with it attached. All right, I popped out on the other side, so everything's looking good. And like I said earlier, on the end of that wire, I'm gonna put that felt tape over it. So hopefully it'll look just like it did from the factory. All right, with our wiring on the door side completed, I can go ahead and put our door panel back on. All right, and putting the door panel back on should be pretty simple at this point. Just reconnect your connector. And you have that white one with the clips on it that goes on the bottom. Slide it through the handle first, pull back, push forward, and then the top one is just a slide in from the side type. All right, now we can hang our door panel and push in all the retaining clips. And when you're putting those clips back into place, you want to make sure you kind of eyeball it on the side, make sure that the clips are lining up with their holes. If it's off a little bit and you go to force it, you can break the end off of your retaining clip. All right, so now we're ready to remove our kick panel completely. Down back in here, we have our factory harness that has our passive entry system wiring. It's in other places of the vehicle, but this is the easiest place for us to access, to tap into. This is where we're gonna make all 4 of our connections for the sense and return wires on our 2 doors. So in order to remove this kick panel, you have a single 10mm nut that's up here. It's kind of like a speed nut almost. That will pull off, and this connector right here, if it didn't pop off like it just did, you could grab a panel tool and remove the entire clip from the base, or you can slide it off of that retaining clip. Either way, we have to remove this or get it pulled to the side so we can pull this free. Now, with everything removed, you're basically going to pull towards the center of the vehicle, all the way down your kick panel. Just like that. Once it's free, you can kind of just work it out and around everything, and you can slide it out. And way down in here, this bottom main harness down here, let me disconnect it. It also has a lever type connector. If you push down in the center, you can pull that lever over and you'll be able to separate the two connectors. All right, now that we have our connector free, you can see on the back side, I previously installed these posi taps to make it easy to view for video purposes, but we have 4 wires that we're going to be tapping into. The driver's side wires are green yellow and green white. That's pins 25 and 24. And the passenger side is green orange and green violet or green purple, and that's pin 21 and 22. There's a sense wire and a return wire, and if you look on the harness that's included with your kit, they'll be labeled sense and return. And basically you're going to tap sense to sense and return to return. On this Jeep, the green yellow is our sense wire for the driver's side, so we're going to tap that into the sense wire on our driver's side harness, and the return wire is a green white. And to install a posi tap, I'll actually show you a little demonstration of how this works. Pretty simple and efficient way to get your wires connected without really cutting or splicing into anything. This just taps into the lines that we need them to. I'll show you how to install this posi tap on a wire that I have set on the side here. So basically on this wire, I'm going to pretend that this is the wire in the vehicle that we're trying to tap into. And what you're going to want to do is pull open your posi tap. You have a pink side and a gray side. The gray side is the tapping side. When you pull it open, you're going to notice that it has a sharp piercing needle on one side. You're going to slide the gray posi screw-on connector over the wire and simply screw the other side down. And when it feels nice and snug, that's a good tapped connection. The other end, you actually don't even have to pull it all the way off, but if you pull it all the way off, you'll notice there's no piercing needle on that side. If you get these backwards, or if they come loose and you don't know which way they go, gray side always goes with the piercing side. The other end is always going to be just flat, not piercing. But you don't have to pull that all the way off. I just showed it just so you know what it looks like on the inside. But if you back it off just a little bit, you grab the wire that you're trying to tap into there. The wire is pre-stripped when you get it in our kit. All you got to do is put that stripped bare-ended wire into the posi tap, screw it down, give it a nice little tug, and now you just have your wire tapped into wherever you need it to. But you want to make sure that you give it a nice tug and make sure that everything is touching. Otherwise, it may not make a good connection if these are loose. With that little explanation being said, I did tap both of these wires. I got my connection here made for the driver's side. What I need to do now is run that longer body harness section from the passenger side over to the driver's side, tap it into my main harness here, and then I can start to put everything back together. All right, so we're gonna do the same thing on the passenger side and pull kick panel out. All right, with the kick panel removed, grab the zip tie. I'm gonna tape the end of our passenger side harness, which is much longer than the driver's side one. Tape that and run it across underneath the carpet. And Jeep was nice enough to put these little snap connectors in. They're almost like buttons. You can kind of just pop free and pull that carpet back around the center console area. Right underneath that button, you actually have an open space that goes right across to the other side. All right, we got the zip tie through, and Danny's gonna pull the rest of that wire out. All right, and that's about good. So where you wanna leave it is right around this area here on the passenger side. Once you have everything back together, you want enough slack on here so with your door harness plugged in, you can plug in that passive entry wire. So you want to make sure that you keep the slack right around there. Put your carpet back down, everything back into place where you still have just a little bit of length on it. All right, now we're back over on the driver's side. You can see we have our passenger side sense and return wires, and we're just going to tap that in. Sense is green orange and return is green violet. All right, with our connections made here, we can slide our plug back in. Slide that connector over, make sure it locks, make sure that plugs all the way back in, and I'm going to route the passive entry harness right up in here. And now that is good to go. Now we're ready to reinstall our driver's side kick panel and move on to the Genie programming. All right, now we can grab our door harness, and if everything worked out for you, your harness, door harness, and the passive entry harness should be around the same area. You can snap that together and connect your door harness as well. Just like that, and then we can return our little hook here. And we'll snap back this last cover. All right, now we're all done with the hard part. We'll plug in our security gateway bypass, and then we'll plug in the programmer, and we'll try it out. All right, so coming up underneath the dash, right next to your OBD2 port, if you look right above it, you have a couple of connectors up there. That is your security gateway module. We include a security gateway bypass that you're going to have to actually plug those connectors into. What I'll do is disconnect each one of these, leaving me with these two connectors. I'll plug this into our security gateway module, and then I can run our OBD Genie programmer into the vehicle to program our vehicle to know that passive entry is now an included option. And when you're plugging in the bypass, it'll only go in one way. These plugs are different. You can't get it wrong. That just enables us the ability to go into your vehicle and do some programming. So before we run our OBD Genie programmer, we want to make sure that it's in the run position, which is hitting the start button twice. It's basically the selection before starting it. Now that it's on, I'll run the Genie. And what we're going to wait for is a green light and a horn honk. We got the horn honk and the green light. That means our Jeep has been programmed. We can pull this out. You won't need to use this again, but it's a good idea to hang on to. If you go to the dealership and they do something to your BCM and they wipe the programming for whatever reason, it's a good idea to have this on hand so you can quickly program it yourself for the options that you just installed. This is also locked to your vehicle, so you're not going to be able to go around and plug it into a bunch of vehicles. This is locked just to your VIN. All right, we got the install completely wrapped up as well as the programming. We'll go ahead and test it out. We have all the doors shut. I have the keys in my hand. We'll hit the lock button. You can hear the horn honk, that means it's locked. I'll set the keys aside. Come back to the vehicle. Everything's locked. Walk back up with the keys. You just touch that inside of the handle and you can hear everything unlocks. So the install worked out great. It's a really, really convenient upgrade if you don't have passive entry and you never experienced passive entry. it's game changing, especially if you have push to start, but you need a remote to unlock your door. This just allows you to keep your keys in your pocket the whole time, walk up to the door, unlock it, and start your vehicle without ever touching your key fobs. All right, that wraps up this install. It took Danny and I probably a good 2 hours, including filming of this whole upgrade. If you're not comfortable doing this kind of install, it'll probably take you at least twice that, maybe 3 times. Give yourself a good Saturday or a weekend or something to tackle this. But once you have it, you're gonna wonder how you went so long without it. If you like this kind of upgrade and you wanna see more, make sure to head back to infotainment.com.